Today the talk is about leveling up your product career, resources and strategies. Today with me is Iryna Struk from HandsHQ. We are really looking forward to learn and from her, from a past experience, and hopefully you enjoy that today. Before we start, let me also introduce myself so you know who's currently talking to you and who's guiding you through these meetup today. My name is Alex. I'm a group product manager at Product People. I'm working in product since 8 years and also was a software developer in the past. I also had my own startup for 2 years plus. Besides having basic knowledge and general knowledge about product management, I'm mostly basically working with product vision and strategy, missions, road mapping, OKRs, and also coaching. I did this for the World Health Organization, Canvas, which is a fintech in Germany, and HeyJobs, a very popular HR tech, Clara in health tech here, and also B2C. Emma, a madness company, Mirado, a brain training company, and Nebenan.de, which is a very friendly neighborhood platform built in Berlin. I participate hackathons for climate. Given we had the hottest summer this year, again, I think it's a good thing to participate. Yeah, and after explaining you who I am, I would also to tell you a little bit who is Product People, what we do. Our mission is to help companies to discover and deliver great products faster. We empower also the product management community, which you are part of today here by joining us. So thank you very much again. We share knowledge generously. And we are doing this hands-on work as product managers and product owners or product leaders at these missions on an interim basis, like 3 months plus. We do this by being very fast in onboarding, aligning the teams and deliver outcomes. We are already 40 people, 40 product managers in-house here at Product People. And we are, as for today, more than 15,000 community members. And again, we are part of that. Try to get this product management community even bigger by the end of the year. Before we start handing over the microphone to Iryna, we would love to also ask you 2 questions to get a better understanding what you're expecting from this talk today, but also what's your previous experience in terms of career growth. So these 2 questions will be shortly also popping up in the Zoom call if you're joining via Zoom, or you can also answer these questions in, for example, the comment section in LinkedIn if you are there. The 2 questions are, how do you work on your career growth, right? And you can answer in multiple ways, multiple choice here. Basically, continuous education. Basically, you work and you have some side hustle in terms of like learning, which is great. You do mentoring sessions, for example, on Mentor Club. You do this as part of your job experience. So basically, learn while you go, or you keep it up with new technology and business trends. You'll follow blogs, etc. As I said, multiple choices are possible, or even others. And the second question is, what's the most challenging part of progressing in your career? Lack of experience, expertise, of training. So maybe the starting point is missing. Yeah, where to start growing your career? Lack of support from your manager or leader. That would be very unfortunate, but I'm also open to hear like if this is a problem for you. Burnout, which basically means like you have so much on your table, there's even not room for that. Yeah, and burnout is a very serious health issue as well. And no clear next steps. That's very much aligned also with A, but like maybe you picked up the breadcrumbs in the beginning, but you don't know how to progress in which direction. So that's answer D, and others as well. We are waiting some seconds, maybe 30 seconds for your answers. Yeah, and then we look into these answers. For me personally, especially the question 2, lack of experience, expertise, and training, and also like support from manager are very, very serious answers, I would say. Like if this is the main problem also for you, then I hope you maybe even get like external help here, right? Maybe we are a coach, external coach, or you have some educational budget and can reach out to people, because not progressing is deadly, right? In every industry, and especially in product management where things change so quickly. And Dila, do we have already answers? Do we have some? Yeah, then let's jump into that. I think also Iryna is eager to hear what's going on. So first question, I'm moving this now to my second screen so I can get more properly. So the main problem is how to work on your curriculum is, or basically how you work on that is like job expertise or job experience. So that means you do this while you're working, learning while doing. I kind of expected that. I hope that the job you are currently working on provides you as much as diverse knowledge and career opportunities as it should, and keeping up with technology and business trends. That's basically the blog post, right, we are reading on the evening on our sofa. And the second question, Joy, what's the most challenging part of progressing in your career? Lack of support from my manager. All right. I'm happy to see burnout only having 6%, but still, if one of you, like you select that, right? If you need help, you should try to really communicate that with your line manager, maybe HR. No clear steps, next steps might also result, or might be the reason because you have certain levels in your company, right? And you don't really know what to do to reach that next steps. If this is the case, let's see if Iryna has some solutions for that. Thank you for your answers. And with that, I would love to hand over to you now, Iryna. I'm stopping sharing my screen, so you can basically take over.
Perfect.
And we would like to, yeah, have fun. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, Alex, for the introduction and for all the questions. I was also very happy to see that burnout was not very popular, so that's a good sign. Amazing. Cool. Let me quickly share my screen now. Can you see that okay now?
Yes, we see that perfectly. Yes.
Perfect. Amazing. Great. So as Alex mentioned, my name is Iryna. I'm a product manager at HandsHQ. We are a B2B and B2C SaaS company, and we work in health and safety domain. I'm also a Product Tank London organizers. We organize monthly meetups in London, but they are also happening all around the world, really. I was just talking to Alex earlier today, and we have events happening in 200 cities around the world. So yeah, if you're interested, make sure you check out our website at some point and attend one of the in-person events if you fancy. Cool. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect with people, talk about, all things product, life, traveling, whatever, anything really. Always happy to meet new people. So feel free to reach out there as well. Cool. So today's session is going to be all about leveling up your product career. And I think for me, it is one of the most important topics as well, because I'm a product professional as well, and I'll always try to keep up with trends, new things happening in the industry, and also try to move faster in terms of where I am now and where I'm trying to get into in the future. So I'd say it's a very actual topic for me, and that's why I decided to share a little bit more about my experience and my exercises or practices that I do. Cool. So as this is quite a large topic, it might be a bit confusing to know where do you really start leveling up your career. Sounds a bit ambitious, but what I always say is that it's always good to start with creating your sort of like career roadmap, right? We as product professionals, we like creating product roadmaps. So just use that technique and try to apply it to your own career. And there are a couple of things that this career roadmap might help you achieve. So first of all, it will help you know what you're good at, right? We do this day-to-day job. We do different types of things every day, but do you really know what you're good at? What's your, superpower within your job? What's your expertise? So once you go through the questions that I'm going to propose, you'll be much more clear on what you are good at as a product professional. Cool. It will also help you identify what skills you're lacking. So essentially what you need to develop in the future, or if there are any gaps, you'll also be able to identify them easily. And then have a clear career vision and strategy, right? So this is also something that we do as product people for our companies, for our products, but also not something that we do for our career or life, really. So it's going to be a very good thing that you'll be able to do as well. Great. So there are really as many components of a career roadmap as you want. You can make it as large as you want. I tried to identify the main ones and the most important ones, in my opinion, and I'm going to share them with you. But feel free to, be flexible with them, add some other ones, or remove the ones that don't apply to you or the ones that you don't like. So don't take that as a framework; it's more of a suggestions, I'd say. Cool. So the first step is for you to evaluate the type of product work that you like to do, that you have done before, and that you would like to be doing in the future. So there are so many discussions online about how do you define types of product work. So many discussions about it. I quite like this one. I think it was created by Reforge, or I think it was Brian Balfour from Reforge, and he says that there are 4 main types of product work. So the first one is feature work, when you work on various features within your product or a company. The second one is growth. So essentially when you're trying to get a larger percentage of your market to expand within your current market. PMF, so product market fit expansion, when you're trying to expand into adjacent markets or products. And then scaling is when you're essentially trying to scale all of that and just to grow your product, organization, team, etc. Cool. So when you try analyzing the type of product work, ask yourself a couple of questions. So the first one is, do you have any past experience with any of these? You can also use other frameworks, really, whatever works best for you. But try to understand a little bit better if you have been, a feature PM, or maybe you've been a growth PM, and then how much experience do you have there? If you have done all of that, also try to take a note of that. Next one is, do you have any future interest in any of these? So for example, if you have been a, let's say, growth PM, and you really want to keep doing that in the future, take a note of that. If you have been a PMF expansion PM, and now you want to try scaling work, try to do scaling work, take a note of that. So just try to understand what you have experience with and what you want to do in the future, or maybe you just want to try and then you'll decide that you don't like it, but you always have to try first. And the last one is if there are any knowledge or experience gaps that you have there. So if you have been a feature PM, but you haven't been a growth PM, you might have some experience gap there. It's always good to then take some actions on it, right? So you could go speak to people who have been in that role in the past, and they might help you understand what you're lacking, what you need to do, if there are any specific skills that you need to have in that role. But at this point, we are just trying to evaluate your preferences and your experience. We'll talk about actions a bit later on. Cool. The next component is company stage. Again, there are so many different types of companies, right? There are large enterprises, there are startups, scale-ups, different types of funding as well, private companies, public companies, everything really. So just also, so these questions will really apply to all of the components that I'm going to be talking about, but try to understand whether you have worked else. Try to identify your past experience in a company, and then future interest, right? Do you want to be working in a public company at some point, or maybe that's a Series A funded company or something like that? And then, are there any knowledge gaps? Again, if you have experience working at a large enterprise, it's probably a lot more different than working at a small startup, and just understanding that that gap would be very good for the actions that you have to identify in the future. Cool. Domain, also a very interesting one. So there are, as you all know, there are so many different types of domains. Can be gaming, e-commerce, mental health, health and safety, as I'm working in, finance, whatever, anything really. And same with business model. Do you want to be working with B2B or B2C, or both, or B2B2C, or whatever else you want to be focusing on? Try to list it here as well. Cool. And also same question. So past experience, have you had any past experience working in a company that is a B2B company, or was that a gaming domain, or where do you want to be working in the future as well? So that's very good to just understand, like, it might not be very easy at first when you try to go through that exercise. Might be a good idea to do some Googling before, just to see like the exhaustive list of different domains, and then it might be a little bit easier to understand which ones are of any interest to you, and then you can potentially, I don't know, select the top 10, then select the top 5, and then select the top 1, for example, if you want to focus on one of those. And also in terms of gaps as well, if you have never worked at a gaming business before, probably there is a bit of a gap, right? Because there are so many specifics to that industry, or fintech as well. So really any industry has their own quirks that you might need to learn either before you join the company or during your time there. Cool. Next one is level. So again, as product people, there are so many different levels that you could be heading towards. Some people like to be individual contributors. They like to do what they do. They like to do product work, right? They don't want to manage others, because that's a whole other set of skills that you need to do that. So you can be a person who likes that, or you want to be a, I don't know, CPO one day, or you want to become a founder of the company, or you want to manage other product leaders. So many different things. Just try to identify what you have experience with, right? Have you been an individual contributor? Maybe you have been managing other people. Take a note of that. Where do you want to be in the future? Try to understand really if you want to be individual contributor, or if you want to change to be a manager or a founder. That's a very important decision to make. And then again, any gaps or knowledge that you need to get before you make the move and change things. Great. And the last one, I'd say it's pretty much optional for some people. For others, if it's a very important topic to you, you might want to include that as well. So if there are any values that you want to follow throughout your career, take a note of them. So for example, you want to work in a diverse team, or you want to have a good work-life balance. You don't want to work late hours or on the weekends, or I don't know, you want to be able to plan your vacations with kids or things like that. Just take a note of that. It's always very useful to know that. And also when you are at some point, right, looking for a new job or looking to hire more people into your team, it's always good to see whether you match on those values and how it all is working together. Make your roadmap actionable. So essentially, once you've gone through that little bit of like analysis, brainstorming exercise, the next steps that I would do is to gather input from your either peers or your previous managers, your current team, really anyone you have at some point worked with that you could trust and that you could be asking different questions. So what I would do, I would take that analysis that I've done and I would share it with them and I would ask about their input. Do they agree with what I wrote there? Do they have any other point of view? Maybe I think I don't have experience doing this or working in that area, but I really do. I just, forgot about it, or I have never acknowledged it, or, there might be so many different issues there. So it's always good to get this outside opinion and just help you shape your roadmap, or like the first stage of the roadmap, a little bit better. And next one is to go through the identifying the gaps exercise again. So you have been identifying gaps during the third step of each of these components, right? But once you get this additional feedback from your previous managers or current team, it's always good to go through it again and then see if anything changed, if you need to add something or remove something. So yeah, just go through that again. And then once you've done that, you'll have a good sense of what your potential next steps could be. So depending on how deep you go into this exercise, you might have either a huge list or a very short one. And if you have a huge one, that's good, but then try to narrow it down to like the must-have ones and then the nice-to-have ones, because you can't be working on everything, right? If you have a lot of experience gaps or knowledge gaps, you might need to prioritize them a little bit. So it's always good to say which ones are really, really must-have ones before you try to achieve that goal that you're setting for yourself, and which ones are, you can get there at some point, but they're not super urgent. And then communicate it. So this one really means a lot of things, but to me, I think it's mainly communicating that with your manager and with your team. So say you want to move into, I don't know, let's say managing product leaders, right? Go to your manager and tell them that this is your long-term goal, for example, and you'd like to achieve it at some point, and engage them into this career planning with you, right? Ask for their opinions, ask them what they think is achievable within the company, what isn't, what you could be doing. As they're your manager, they probably have a lot more experience than you do, and they have, ideally, they have done a lot of these sessions with other people as well. So they might be able to help you as well from their point of view, and also within their own company. And then try to repeat that once in a while, these check-ins, right? I know in some companies, this is like a set process. You have these meetings with your manager every month or every quarter or whatever. But if you don't, be proactive about it, right? Don't be reactive, be proactive, set it up yourself, ask questions, ask for somebody to hold you accountable. So yeah, be proactive about your career, really. Right. What else can you be doing except for this career roadmap? And also I wanted to mention that it doesn't really matter what format you have this in. I know some people who have done it in Excel spreadsheet, some people have done it on Miro board, some people just like physical paper and pencil, so they have done it on a whiteboard or on a paper. So yeah, whatever really works best for you and what sort of encourages your creative thinking, use that, and I'm sure it's going to work. Cool. So what else can you be doing? Have a mentor and mentor others. I think this one is really important as well, because you can achieve all of these things without the mentor for sure, but I think with the mentor you can be moving so much faster, and if you have that opportunity, why not use it, right? If you can be moving faster towards your goal, just go for it and try doing that. It's not always easy to find a good match with a mentor and mentee. So yeah, it can take you some meetings, can take you some time, but once you found that person, take advantage of that and be able to use that information, that guidance that they could give you. And also in terms of mentoring others, I feel like it's also a very interesting experience for any professional, really, not only product people, but anyone really. Sharing what you have learned and what your experience has been about things helps them, but also helps you to really understand what you're good at, right? As I mentioned before, what you're good at, what you know, what you don't. So be honest about that, and that's a good, like a natural way of analyzing your own expertise as well. Cool. Join communities and connect with people, right? Like we do here during the session. It's a good way to meet new people, to learn new things. There are so many other events happening, right? To just Google GoToMeetup or find some communities where you can connect with like-minded people in the industry. And I'm sure there are also like online communities as well as offline ones. So whatever works best for you, however you like to communicate, try and do that. It's always super valuable to be able to share your problems, issues with other people, ask what their experience has been, and just sort of have this brainstorming sort of activities going on from time to time. So it's good. It's a good way to advance your career as well, right? Because the more you know about the industry, the faster you can move within it, and the faster you can achieve your goal as well. And you can ask for help there as well, right? If you don't have experience in one of the domains, you just post a message somewhere, and then people reach out to you, and you can ask them questions, and you can pick up their brains sometimes. Keep learning. This one is quite obvious, but I just wanted to share that sometimes I feel very overwhelmed with the amount of resources about product. There are so many articles, so many videos, so many podcasts. It's very overwhelming. So that's why I said ideally from the best, because what I've done, I've identified my top, list of courses, people, newsletters that I sign up to, and I try to follow them. And then if I can't find my answers to some questions, I will dig a little bit more into other resources. But then most of the time it's sufficient for me, and I don't feel that I'm, I feel like I'm getting enough information from my personal best list of resources for courses. Cool, and share your experience. Similar to mentoring, right? But this one is more about, let's say, public speaking or getting your opinion out there. You can be speaking at events like product people, or you could be writing articles, you could be creating your, podcasts, YouTube channels, whatever else you can come up with. It's always good because you until a certain point you don't acknowledge how much experience you have and how useful it can be to other people. So if you're not sharing, you're like taking this piece of puzzle from someone, and if you are, then you're giving this something back to the community. So I find it always very rewarding to be sharing my experience, and also listening to others speak and write and create different things as well. And it's always very inspiring, right? If you're sharing your journey, it's somebody can relate for sure, and it's very nice to relate on the topic that is dear to you as a product professional. Cool. I think that's my last slide. Yeah, it is. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions about those. It was very high level, I know, but we didn't have too much time. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions whatsoever.
Thank you. Thanks, Iryna. I think I'm taking over screen sharing in a second. We are coming to this Q&A session also in a second. I will just move around my screens now and start sharing that. While doing the hands work here on getting the screen sharing on, thanks already, Iryna, for the lovely presentation. I have two notes. I love it really much because you emphasized on take it into your own hands. Like learning, that's so important, right? If you want to learn, don't wait for a manager who basically takes it into the hands, right? And the other thing is like your emphasis on writing, like sharing knowledge, because like writing is such an undervalued skill, because being a good writer means also you're a good storyteller. And as a product manager, right, we still tell stories, right? It's not talking about user stories now in Jira, but also like stories to marketing, to sales, who needs to take the product you are developing and bring that out. So thank you on that. While we are waiting for getting basically the questions from our audience, I will just share a little bit 2-3 slides more, because then these questions come in. On YouTube and on LinkedIn, you can basically use, again, the comment section. I'm seeing the comments then coming in, and I will pick a question there. On Zoom, you can also drop your questions there. But also, if you want to have or want to question basically verbally, I will basically then point out to you, and you can unmute and ask the questions. So we are waiting that everyone can collect the questions. Until then, I would love to also show a little bit more the use cases of product people. As I said, takes not so much time. The use cases when you can engage with us, when you can bring us into companies, is like being the interim product manager or product leader for permanent positions, right? You are hiring for, right? It takes often like 3 months to hire a new person. Parental leave, sabbaticals are also a thing. Right, in these timeframes, we can also support you for 3 to 12 months. Being a product coach or consultant, I'd coach complete teams or individuals to bring them on the next level, or even like create or streamline processes you have in place from 0 to 1, small case to large scale as well. And being a product discovery lead. If you know, for example, continuous discovery habits, which is becoming a new and like even more established process like we can come in and support your company in diving into new markets, or you're doing user research or business model evaluation, or running low-code pilots or MVPs. If you want to be very quick on the market and learn faster, we can help you. We did these, and we are continuously doing this with Squad24 Group, Dr. Smile, Freeletics, or Tier, and many others, which you see on a future slide. But I also want to emphasize that we are not just consultants, right? We are really interim PMs. So we are embedded into the companies, and you see this here with lovely comments from peers we had at this company. So we are part of the team, and we are not just coming in with fancy slides. We are doing all the hands-on work. And we do this, as I said, with B2B clients, Justify as well, Utopia, Pliant, etc. And B2C clients like Zalando, Backmarket, Blinkist, Emma, and Co. And the team, basically, who's basically behind Product People, you see here, right? A very diverse group of people from all over the globe, with diverse backgrounds. And as you see on the bottom right, there is space for more people. If you want to join this lovely group, feel free to apply as a product manager. All levels are basically, you're searching for all levels. You can find us on boards.eu at greenhouse.io/productpeople. You will also find our job openings on LinkedIn, for example, where you can also apply directly. And now we are going into the Q&A session. I will check out now the chat. If you are in Zoom, you can also raise your hand. And then I will pick you up step by step. The first question I'm having here for you, Iryna, is, and I pick it from Zoom now. How can you measure the level of our skills to make sure we understand which areas to improve? It's from Zinge.
Yeah, that's a good question, really. It's there is no single way to do that right. I think, in my opinion, I would measure it based on my own opinion, and also like joining other communities and talking to people helps me sort of see myself on a certain level among other product professionals. So I would use that general knowledge to evaluate my own level, but then I would ask for external opinion as well. So the idea with asking your manager or team or some other people that you worked with to also sort of, rank you or evaluate you is a good idea. And then you can compare those two scores or however else you want to measure that, and then see if it's similar or different. And if it's different, then it might be a good idea to dive into it a little bit deeper and then see what's the issue there. Yeah, so that's how I would approach that.
Thanks, Iryna. Thank you for the answer. On YouTube, we got a question from Guilherme. He doesn't have so much experience in product management tasks, but still has very great interest in that area. I don't know what his background is, but he asked, like, what can you suggest to gain this experience? Volunteering, creating own projects, job shadowing? What would be your advice?
Yeah, it's always so much easier to get this experience within your own company. So potentially the first step would be to, again, talk to your manager and then tell them about this goal that you have. If you wanted to explore a little bit more about product management side of things, ask them if they know about any opportunities that you could be taking, and if they know about any timelines or anything like that. But if they don't, then you can be, again, proactive about your own career. You can do volunteering, you can do your own pet project, side hustle, try doing things there as well. You could join other teams of people who are working on something, or go to hackathons like Alex mentioned that he does, right? You can join some teams there, create a team from scratch. Really, you don't need to have a team ready with you when you come there. So just brainstorm a little bit, create a list of things that you could be doing, and go from there.
Thank you. We are getting tons of questions also here in
Nice. Zoom.
That's great. So people are really eager to hear. So there's one question from, and I hope I pronounce your name correctly, Sumanju. So he asked, he starts this question like, I often hear this advice that one should create a product from scratch to understand product management better and advance in career. With scratch, I mean, maybe even not having any solution to it, but maybe only starting with a problem. He continues, but if one is not that good with tech or development, programming, etc., how can one go about building or starting a new project of interest?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. I mean, none of us were good at tech side of things, right, before we started getting involved into it. So it's always something that you can learn. As a product manager, you don't have to know how to code and how to be a developer. You could, but it's a good thing to do, but it's not a requirement, right? So you don't have to worry about that too much. It's always good to understand how things are working. But if you don't, again, you could find a mentor who could help you do that. You could take some courses. You could learn via reading articles or listening to different videos. So all of that is really achievable. You don't have to worry about that. In terms of whether it's in order to become a product manager, you have to start the project from scratch, I don't think so. As I mentioned, there are so many different types of feature work. You could be working on initial launch, you could be working on scaling, you could work on something else. It's not super important to have experience with everything, and it's not really possible, right? It's good to have it, but it's, it will take you probably years to get it. So yeah, I don't, to answer your questions, I don't think that you have to have had experience working from scratch to be called the product manager.
Yeah, absolutely. And because technology changes so quickly, market demands, right? A couple of years ago, what are NFTs? And now all the industries, gaming, finance, everyone is asking for it. Like, how can you keep up, right? Yeah, thanks, Iryna. So Peter, I'm sorry I skipped your question. I will now ask this question. It's a very generic question, but Iryna, happy to hear what your answer is about it. How does product management is different from project management?
Yeah, it's a good discussion topic, isn't it? So many people debate about it. So my own take on it is that depending on the size of your company, you could be called different things, right? You could be business analyst, product management, project management, something else, product owner sometimes, right, if it's a Scrum environment. But in my own view, project management is a smaller piece of work, right? You could have a product and you could be working on a little project. So you could be a product manager working on that project, but you could be somebody else who's leading that project. So it's really just a different level of scope of works, if that makes sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. I can second that. I just want to basically add on top for you also, Mrs. Abida here with product people, and we are basically called product people because we do all the full circle work. If you Google, for example, double diamond principle, right? We go out and try and understand the problem. Is there really a problem? What are certain ways of validating that, narrowing down maybe to solution, and then building it and validating it? While project management is often seen being on the right side of building it on budget, building it on time, not really caring so much about the problem itself. Another question we have in Zoom, and then afterwards we are going into another LinkedIn question, is from Azimbe. It's like, how do you overcome the feeling of not being good enough, especially if you are at your first role as a junior product manager at a private company dealing with company stakeholders?
Yeah, that's a very good one. It's not easy to be a super confident person, right, if you're just starting out. And also, it's not only for product managers, for everyone, really. If you're just starting out, you're probably not super confident in your skills and how others perceive you. And I'd say what helped me is, again, getting a mentor who has been a person who has helped me understand that, you're good at this. You don't have to be, overwhelmed about the amount of work, and also just trying to prioritize things. Again, what I had at some point is that I had so many things happening, and I was like, oh, I'm not good at anything, right? But if you are just trying to focus on the top things that you have to be doing now, and you don't have to know everything else at this point, right? At this point, you're tackling this problem and you're good at this. And then once the time comes to do something else, you can learn, you can ask people, you can, approach this like a mini project rather than worrying about this whole suite of problems that are attacking you from all sides. So yeah, I say this is my piece of advice, really. And just believe in yourself. You're great. So just do it.
Exactly. And maybe you agree or disagree, Iryna, but there's this saying of like work in a company where you either learn or either earn money, right? Ideally both. And if you are not able to learn because of a specific environment, make sure that you earn enough so you basically can afford maybe a mentor, maybe paying someone, even like for sharing sessions or something like this, right? But if both is not present, I think you should change the job.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree, definitely. I think it should be both.
Yeah. All right, thank you. We are going into a LinkedIn question. I don't see the name, but it's a LinkedIn user. What is the secret to get into companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft as a product manager? Can you share? Do you have any insights in that?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I haven't worked in those companies, in phone companies before. I know there are a lot of different resources online out there about the structure of the interviews, how you could be better preparing. You could be doing mock interviews with the people who work there. So yeah, just try to Google that, and I'm sure you'll find some good tips out there. But I would definitely do some mock interviews with people who have gone through the same. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And for some reason on YouTube, they're popping up these videos, right? These kind of mock interviews as well, which you can just follow. They are 45 minutes long. Yeah. So if you are interested in joining these companies, I think what you need to prepare for is like these companies have a way of working, and you don't be blinded just by the name. You need to be culturally, like from the culture perspective, fit into these companies. Don't get blinded just by the name. And you could, talking about Google, right? There was Google Plus and Google Glass, and all these products are not out there anymore. It's not like everything is shining and everything was successful at these companies. Be aware.
Yeah, exactly. I have read a good book. I think it's called Cracking the PM Interview or something like that, which is quite good at explaining how culture is different at these large companies, and you can read that and see which one is more is closer to you and your values, and that might be a good idea as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think I saw that recently on LinkedIn from someone again shared. There's this kind of book landscape for PMs, right? How to start and then how to drive into like the specific areas. And I think this is one in the starting area. Yeah, thanks. We have one question from Julia here in Slack. Which training or courses would you recommend for someone starting and now her career in product management, really like starting from zero? Any specific course or training you can recommend? She's feeling overwhelmed by the number of resources at the moment.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate to that. There are so many different things out there. Again, my philosophy is to learn from the best, even though it's not the cheapest way to learn things sometimes. So if you're looking to go and do a course or something like that, I think, in my opinion, Reforge is the best one out there for things like that. And I think they have a course for junior product or like people who are starting out there. I'm not super sure if there are any other ones for like beginners, but I'm sure there are quite a few. But again, yeah, I think my recommendation would be Reforge. It's quite pricey, but it's definitely worth it.
Thank you. Goes back to the point of working somewhere where you earn enough money if you don't learn something, so you can spend it on Reforge. Yeah, exactly. I'm picking a question now from LinkedIn. Okpala has a question. I transitioned from customer support, which is great. I think customer support is the best starting point of going to product management, to becoming product owner. However, I would love to really get my hands into product management, but really don't know how to go about it. So it's basically from product owner into product management. Yeah, Iryna.
Yeah. So is it somebody who has transitioned already from CS to product owner? Okay, cool. So again, depends on how things are set up in your own company. So if you're a product owner, do you have a product manager as well? And if yes, what are the differences in jobs that you're doing, and where do you intersect and where you don't? So as in my team, right, product owner is not always a product manager. It can be a lead developer, can be someone else who's dealing with that part of the job. And so I would probably try to analyze that first, map it out, how it works in your own company, and then potentially reach out to that product manager, or maybe reach out to your manager first to be connected to that product manager, and then see how you can learn from them, and identify the gaps that you have. If you have any, try and learn from them. Try, maybe, people like to delegate sometimes people like to delegate things. So they are overwhelmed with their job. They could delegate some things to you, and you could start learning by doing, right? By just helping some person to cope up with their job and work that they have. So try to do that within your own company. Really, it's so much easier always to do that within your own team.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you. And I mean, Okwara, you're already in the product landscape here, right? It's just like product management is a little bit broader. It's more on the left side as well, again, double diamond. So you already entered that area. So very happy for you. And as Iryna said, look out where you can take work or maybe shadow even, right? Yeah, can become maybe first also like a vacation buddy or something, right? And then at some point taking over the job. We have a question from Guillaume here on YouTube. Any suggestions on which growing market segment to be looking for a product management career? Health, gaming, finance? Is there basically one growing market which is easier, or you know?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you have asked me that like a couple months ago, I would say crypto, right? Because everyone was so hyping about it. Now I'm not super sure about that, but at Product Tank we have done this questionnaire about what topics people are interested in, and it looks like internal product management or like managing internal products is something that is growing a little bit better now. So I might take a look into that if that's something of your interest. But really, I would probably I wouldn't look into like something that is like super popular. I would look into something that I like doing or something that I'm passionate about, right? If I don't like games, I probably wouldn't want to go into gaming just because I'm not passionate about it, and I would find it boring to work there. You know, I'd find something that where my passion lies, where my interests are.
That's super important. Yeah. Ideally, you want to stick in that domain for 2 years minimum, right? Because every domain is so rich. Like in finance, it's like so many regulations around you want to learn. Maybe so find something also where you want to be for 2 years and plus. Yeah, thanks for the answer. There is a not a question. Azimwe has more like she's asking like what are basically top 5 books you usually or you have read in the past or usually recommend? What are your 5 books in the shelf you always pull out and hand out and say like, read this and you get a better PM?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be boring with this list, but you might find it interesting. So I think the first one that I like is The Mom Test. Not sure if anyone has read it, but it's very short. It's very easy to read. It's amazing. You can use it during your user interviews and just life. You know, I started using those questions for like chatting with friends and stuff. So that's a very good one. Another one that I liked back in the days was Marty Kagan's book, Inspired, which gives you a good overview of how things are working within software companies and what different roles there are and how they work together. So that one was quite a good one. I know he also has Empowered, but I haven't read it yet. What else? I quite like Cracking the PM Interview. When I read it, it was good to know that this, imaginative world of the company is not as ideal as I thought back then. So it was good for me to understand that like every company has their own advantages and disadvantages, and that you need to really vibe with somebody, with some company to be confident that you can join it. Cool. What else? I quite like the lean. So I read a lot of books about analytics. So I like lean analytics one. It's not an easy read, but it's a very interesting read for like a long reading procedure, if that makes sense. You don't read it from beginning to the end in one go, but like it's something that you would go back to and you would check things, and like you would try to adjust the way you approach different things within your team, and particularly for like analyzing future performance and stuff like that. So yeah, that'll be my list. I don't know if that was 5 or asked for more.
I think it was 5. Maybe we just add Escaping the Building Trap and then we round it up. while you said this one book, right, like Lean Analytics, this brings me back. I noted down one question I have to you, because in their presentation, there was like the self-assessment was really based on like product work, size of the company, industry, etc. I was wondering why you didn't include, for example, the different aspects of product management work. For example, pure delivery, right? Working, building great user stories, making sure that you validate work after it's being delivered, or like the research aspect, continuous discovery habits, for example. And also like in research, you also have like analytical, basically responsibilities, maybe being able to do a little bit of SQL. I was wondering, why did you include that? Is it because it's very internal company focused and it's not applying to the, like, say, self-assessment if you do this without the company?
Yeah, I think, no, that's a good challenge to include that. I think it's just a little bit more detailed. I try to be more high level with these components. I think you could go into that from like type of feature work that you do. You could start analyzing, okay, so if I like doing feature work, what sort of circle, or like what is the things that I do within that work, and then you can go deeper into each of those areas, right? Do you do planning? Do you do strategy planning? Analytics and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's just a little bit more on a another level of detail there. But a good shout to include that. That's a good point.
All right, thank you. I have in Zoom some questions about like, can you share again the resources you mentioned, etc. I think for everyone here, this session is being recorded. So if you missed anything, if you were too quick, right, just look at that recording, which will be available after this meetup here, and then just skip to Q&A part and you will find it. We have a question from Nico from LinkedIn. He asked, how do you make sure you learn the right things at the right time? There are so many potential product management topics to cover, but even if not required, you can, in your current position, how do you take a sustainable choice for your professional development? Maybe even avoid learning things which are not right at the moment.
Yeah, that's a very complex question, I'd say, because also depends on the team you're working with, right? You might be able to delegate things to other people if you don't want to, spend any time on it and you don't feel like you need to learn it. But sometimes you don't have anyone to delegate to, right? Can be different ways of thinking. So I'd say if you have this opportunity, feel free to find some other people who are more interested in learning something that you don't want to be learning, or I'm sure there are different types of people in your company that could be more interested in doing that. However, I would first start with understanding what is it that you want to be focusing at this particular moment of time in your life, right? Do you want to be learning more about analytics, or do you want to learn a little bit more about roadmap building and planning and things like that? So I would start with that, and then with each product, or sprint, or however you structure the way you work, I would try to see what I can learn from this project or period or quarter or whatever it is, right? I would try to think a little bit in advance about it, and then have like little retro sessions for myself throughout that project or something, just to see whether I'm on track to learn what I said to learn or not. And then if not, then I would adjust some things.
Thank you. Thanks again of emphasizing basically like you are in control, right? So you need to do your self-assessment and look where you want to go, where do you want to see your career growing, and not listening too much to the noise, right? If you follow like, I don't know, product management advice on Twitter, you are not able to work, right? Everyone is shouting something, there's something new, look at that, this is awesome, read this article on Medium, it's just 5 minutes. But, right, so again, like I think you need to really look out what would be your next steps. You want to go into gaming. A gaming product manager is so much different to a finance product manager.
Exactly.
And build out the career path, the learning path for exactly that. And unsubscribe from then certain Twitter or whatever. No, don't unsubscribe from people. They are lovely, but don't go there too often. Yeah. Thanks, Iryna. All right. I'm looking into my channels, like for more questions. Yeah, there was just another question, like, can we share the books? Again, yeah, this session is recorded. You will find basically the books she recommended in that recording later. And I think we give a couple more seconds if people have a question. But also, Iryna, maybe you have a question to the audience. Maybe a yes or no question, and people just do a thumbs up or something like this if they enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. I would maybe let us know which part, which piece of advice was the most insightful for you, or like the most actionable, which one you can start doing tomorrow. Would be super interesting to know that.
Yeah, so everyone here in the channels, like, drop your answer. What was the most insightful part here in the presentation? Also maybe in the Q&A session. It's not sure how fast we are getting the LinkedIn and YouTube answers in, but on Zoom, people the answer should come in very, very quickly. What I liked really was the roadmap approach, because that's something we know, right? We know the term roadmap, and we usually know how a roadmap is being built. What are the ingredients of a great roadmap to also make it adjustable, right? Why are things also like on the left side? So that's nice that you basically use the same tool set, and we are not starting using a new tool here. That was great. Yeah.
Right. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, Swati loved the roadmap part. Sabita, the roadmap part. Awesome. Great.
Perfect. Great. That's amazing to know. Thanks for sharing, guys.
All right. Then, thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much, Iryna, for sharing that today with us. Thanks for all the great contribution from the listeners, for your questions. I hope that was insightful and brings you further in your career, because that's what we're aiming for here today. Again, this session basically is always being recorded. You can listen to it again. For future meetups, please join our meetup, basically, or meetup account. You can also join our Telegram group or on Patreon to stay up to date with our future events. And now I can just say thank you very much again. Have a great evening, great day, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.